Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Candace. Welcome to WTF.
Women Talk Finance.
Our WTF podcast will take a simplified approach to finance, and we talk about investing, a topic we believe women don't talk enough about.
We'll discuss common financial questions and challenges that women face in business and throughout their personal lives. A quick disclaimer before we start. The opinions that we're going to discuss are just that. They're just our opinions. We are not here to give investment advice. We will be talking about who we are, what we're about, and what information we'll be bringing to you.
We'll be speaking to women from all walks of life whose experience will help us frame some of the issues and challenges that women face today in business. Maybe you're starting your own company and investing in your future.
We're going to talk about knowing your worth in the workplace, how to ask for that raise, and we'll also talk about investing, something we believe that women don't talk about enough. You'll find this is a common theme throughout our podcast to come. How to invest, different kinds of investments, and how to pay yourself first. We're going to give you actionable information that will allow you to understand how to make your future better starting today. And we are here today with Alison Gaulden, who works for the University of Nevada at Reno at the Reynolds School of Journalism. Alison, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at the University of Nevada?
Sure. I mold young minds. I teach young people how to do public relations and advertising. But I serve as a mentor for the Student Public Relations Society. It's a professional development club on campus. And I like hanging around with young people and sharing the wisdoms.
So Alison is here today to talk with us about the things one should consider when asking for a raise. Where do you want to start? There's a lot, right? Especially, I think, for women.
Yeah, because women are prone to, whether this is a job offer or a promotion, women are prone to, they're going to give me money, okay, I'm just going to take it.
They think I'm valued at this, so that's what I'm at.
Yes, and we're trained from the time we're 9 to be good girls, and if you are good girls, Prince Charming and or the money and or the whatever will come, and not to ask. And our young boys are not taught that. And so they don't wait. They are taught to go ask.
Well, and what's this piece about? I don't know. I feel bad asking for more for myself in any situation, work or otherwise. I feel bad asking for anything for me.
Because we are trained not to ask. You were trained to be just a good girl and wait for it to come. And so we are all trying to overcome this. Don't just be you can be a good person, but you can ask for things for yourself. And this is why it is such a hard time for women to ask for anything for themselves, to ask for a favor, to ask for money, to ask for whatever. And once you start learning how to ask, you can ask for all of it.
Yeah, I think that's true. Do you think it's kind of worse right now, post-pandemic, that you're just like, oh gosh, I'm just so grateful that I at least have what I have, because I know so many people who had to leave what they had behind or leave their job. I don't know.
I imagine there's two kind of people. There are people who are just grateful, I'm just getting through, I'm keeping my head down and continuing it's good enough. And there are people who took time to reflect and like, this is not how I want to live. I don't feel good about the job, I don't feel respected or whatever. But certainly the Great Resignation, now is the time to ask for things for yourself. So to get to the point of where do you start, you always start with research. The first part of research is, how much money do you want to make? You have to research for yourself. What are your needs? What kind of a living do you want? What kind of a cost of living are you dealing with? And this doesn't matter whether you're in Berea, Kentucky, Reno, or LA, or wherever. How much do you need? So you need to know what that number is. A lot of women don't budget, so that's a whole nother podcast. The second thing you need to do is start finding out, what are other people getting paid? Ask your coworkers.
Well, and I think there's a lot online, too, a lot of resources in that regard,
Absolutely.
Right?
You can go to salary.com, indeed.com, LinkedIn, a lot of them have salary comparisons. So you want to figure out what your job is, like in the public relations marketing, there are a lot of things that call themselves that, and so you kind of need to dig down into the skill set.
Well, there can be a range. So I love the idea of adding the research and opening up a door for conversation with your peers.
Right, absolutely. We are starting to see legislation across the country where states are saying you can't prohibit employees from finding out how much, and they'll have to start posting what the salary ranges are, because they wanted you to not know. They didn't want you two to talk together, because then we'd find out that Jackie was making more money than Candace.
It gives more leverage to the person that's,
right. And often it was the male in the room got the more money.
Making more.
So part of why we don't ask is we are acculturated since we were 9. And the other is we don't have the skills and we don't ask for it. So we have to learn how to negotiate and to ask. And this isn't a negotiation where it's a win-win and you got to outbeat the other guy, but you do need to, or the other person, you do need to do your research, know what is reasonable conversation. And there is a range, as Candace brought up. And then from that, you need to also understand the process. So trying to get a job at the university, I learned this the hard way, that there's state line and soft line money, and then there's certain kinds of levels. There's academic faculty and administrative faculty. So each job comes with different kinds of salaries and the ability to negotiate.
You mentioned learning it the hard way. What would it have looked like to learn it the easy way?
Had I done my research and known what my position would have been, I could have asked if it could be a different kind of line item. Could this be faculty, part administration? Could it be some of these other things? So I didn't do enough research and I trusted the process too much.
Sounds like there was some creativity available in there as well, because you mentioned it's not just negotiating like one number. So to me, it sounds like you're negotiating where that budget's coming from.
Yes.
You know, in other professions, it's okay, I'll take this base, but you know what, I actually expect X in equity in this. So, I mean, being also somewhat creative.
Sure. You have to know your whole list of options. So salary is certainly one point, it's the biggest point, but knowing all of your benefits and whether they cover health care or not, most of that came with the Affordable Care Act, but small businesses may or may not because of their size. So whether it comes with health care, does it come with retirement? How much is the retirement? How much do they match? Do they have a range of match?
You start looking at it as a holistic package.
The holistic package. Do they have vacation? How many days off do you get? So you need to really put together the whole spreadsheet. And there is kind of a spreadsheet. Now, for those who get terrified at the thought of a spreadsheet, you can put it on a calendar, you can do boxes and squares, you just write it down like whatever.
Start drawing with crayons.
Just whatever it takes, do a vision board, whatever works for you. But you need to understand some of that process. And this is not neurosurgery. This is stuff you can find out. It is something you can do. Then the next step that I recommend is you have to do the hard part, and this is for the women who are afraid to ask, is you have to rank yourself as your worth. So take a job description if you're applying for the job, or take what your job is and the top skills and give yourself a score of, 1 is the best, 5 is the lowest. I do this many things at a 1, this many at a 2, this many at a 3. And kind of know that, because you're going to come back around to this, whether, again, you're applying for a new job or you're asking for a raise, to talk about your accomplishments and what you have done for the company.
Sure, you have to go sell yourself a little bit.
You do. And you have to sell your worth, because when you negotiate for a promotion, it is not about you. It is not. You don't get to bring up that budget that I made you look at. Your employer, as much as they're caring, they don't give a shit. That's not their responsibility of whether or not you can pay your bills. They're trying to figure out how they pay their bills, and you're just a bill, right? So that you need to know what value you bring.
Interested in investing in cryptocurrency? It's a simple way to diversify your portfolio. But what about the impact that cryptocurrency mining has on the environment? We have a solution. It's called CryptoWell. CryptoWell uses eco-friendly technological infrastructure to generate power for cryptocurrency mining. Accredited investors go to rowcapitalgroup.com to power your portfolio with sustainable crypto mining. Every day you hear about people making money by investing in IPOs and startups. But what about you? These kinds of investments are simply not available to Main Street investors. At Row Capital Group, we are committed to providing access to strategic, early-stage, primarily low-market correlated investment opportunities. Accredited investors go to rowcapitalgroup.com for more information. Row Capital Group, empowering your financial journey.
This goes to a different conversation we've had before about before you can sell yourself and sell somebody else on what value you bring, you have to know and trust your own value. And I think that does require, kind of to your point about ranking yourself, you got to get real with what you do have to offer. And there may be some skill sets that aren't as strong, and then plenty that are really strong, and knowing and trusting that you are good at that, and you get to say, I'm good at this, I bring value in this area.
And speak to that little human inside of you that worries that if you haven't heard somebody tell you that you're good at it, but you know that you did your best work and this was amazing and you haven't heard it, getting a raise is a way to acknowledge that little human that's inside of you that's waiting for that kind of attention.
Right.
So do this on behalf of her, right? That little girl who just needs that approval and that attention because, again, we were acculturated to look for that.
I think you bring up a good point about you're also a number, and you know, we certainly are on both sides of the coin here, right? I've been an employee and I've been an employer, and when you're writing those checks every month, and especially when you're a small company, definitely your employees' value and what they bring is so critical, right? So if you're an employee that's $10,000 a month, it's really important to understand, okay, I know I am bringing this company so much value that I'm worth more than that on their budget. And just like we would look at our budget and go, okay, is Netflix worth $10 a month to me? That's how a lot of employers are looking at their budget and determining, okay, where does this add value? And sometimes an employee can become I'm getting Sirius XM for that really discounted intro price that I still have. And you need to come up and say, okay, yes, but on the other side, I'm a human being and I do deserve to get paid this much, right?
Whether you've just been there for a year or 2 years or it's your 10-year or whatever, you have already brought something to the organization. So know what that is. Have specifics. Talk about measurable numbers that's fair to the boss to know that you have contributed, whatever it is. You want to prepare your ask. One of the things you have to prepare yourself for before you even make the ask is, are you willing to walk away?
Sure. What if you hear no? Then
What if you hear no?
Yep.
I will tell you that don't necessarily take no for an answer. You have to be prepared to, if they're not going to honor this or me, or I'm not going, then it's time to look for something else. You don't have to tell them that. You don't have to burn a bridge. But if the answer is no, not ever, or not for another couple of years because we're in bad circumstances or whatever, then you probably shouldn't stay anyway. If you get a no, you can say, what will it take to get to a yes? What do I need to do different for you to demonstrate that you're willing to invest in me? A strategy, and you can only know this based on where you're employed, but it is the Great Resignation, and a strategy is you'd really like to not leave, but you're finding it untenable to stay. It used to, and I don't know what the numbers are now, but it used to cost about $10,000 a person to onboard a new staff person. It's probably 15 now.
And that's a hard cost alone. That's not a time cost.
That doesn't count the opportunity cost of not having the body filled, right?
Yeah. And fully up to speed. Right. Because that takes time.
That takes more time. So it costs a company $20,000 at least for somebody to leave. So really, that's your mile marker. If you ask for $19,000 more a year, or somewhere in that range, you are saving them money, and you want to point that out. So when you make your ask, it is, Jackie, I've worked for you X number of years. I've brought XYZ to the table. I really like you to consider a promotion of this, $19,000 more than what I'm making now. And then the hard part is you have to shut up then.
And let me say thank you, Alison, for preparing this summary of everything you've provided, for reminding me how much I've invested in you and how much you've invested in the company. Let me think on this.
Yes.
The silence, though,
You want to
is
fill it.
so hard. You
It's
want
so
to
hard.
fill it, and you want to fill it with validation of like why, and but I'm so grateful, and you want to fill it.
And I don't care
So
if you
bad.
stick a pencil in your mouth, your thumb in your mouth. Well, maybe not that, because
Maybe not that. That would not be
but
the best
that's
look.
not the best look.
Take
but
a drink, maybe.
take a sip of water.
sip.
I always encourage that, or a sip of your coffee, whatever it is, because if I'm approaching Candace, she may not be as willing to say, well, thanks for bringing this and let me go look at it. Just might be stunned and going, math in my head. I don't know if I
I
can
just
afford
might be
this.
sitting in silence.
Right? Yeah.
And you want to fill it.
And I call it money chicken. Whoever speaks next loses. So you just stay as quiet as drink as all the water.
Drink some coffee, drink some water. Maybe not coffee, drink some chamomile.
Yep. And just give them time and smile. And that's the hardest part. Because to your point, Candace, we want to fill that. We are nurturers. We want to justify. We want all that validation.
We want to validate, and we want to be appreciative and nice and kind, and oh gosh.
But we don't want them mad at us.
No.
Because we asked.
We're pleasers. We're pleasers. Yeah.
And most employers are not mad that you've asked. They may not be able to do it, but they're not mad at you. And if you have an employer who's mad at you for asking,
Red
it's
flag.
time to go.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a really
Yeah.
It's
well
time
said
to
point.
go.
Yeah.
I also had a business mentor once for a while who said, you're going to have to ask. You must ask, because there's not a soul out there who's going to walk around going, who can I pay more?
Who can I?
You know?
Money.
Yeah, I got to get more out there.
If only.
So you're going to have to ask.
Yeah, you do have to ask. And maybe they can't meet you at the price you want, but then you have a second round of negotiation. Well, can I change my title? Can I have more time off? Can I work a 4-day work week? Can I bring my dog to work? Can I, have done your research on looking at what kind of a life do you want to do? Can I work from home 5 days a week? Like, whatever it is, the pandemic definitely taught us we have options.
Yeah.
There are a variety of ways. You do not have to go into an office for most things.
Can you get a car allowance or a phone allowance or things that maybe take some of that pressure off of your personal finance? So it's like you're getting a raise, but your employer has been able to find a happy medium. Or take a sabbatical, every couple of years. Can you work that in? We're starting to see sabbaticals coming back. I'm seeing more and more people understanding that, like that work-life balance.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on one thing, kind of take it in aside here, and I've got 2 young daughters, and you touched on a couple times that, and we all got it, right? What would you say to me, to our listeners who have young kids, especially young girls? What can we do that's different to give them that leg up? Because I don't want to repeat those with my girls.
Stop telling them they're pretty and their only value is that they're beautiful. Just quit effing using anything about their appearance at all. Make their value character-based, that they are smart, that they are generous, that they take care of other people, that they are brave, that they are whatever. But stop talking about what they look like.
Their looks
ever.
and their good I've really had to stop saying to my daughter, "Oh, you're being so
being so
good.
good.
Ooh."
You're being so good.
And
And
it's a
so,
natural thing
and
to
then
see
you
it come out.
reward them for being so good.
For being not just good. Can we say what they're being? They're being submissive.
Yes.
That's what we equate being good to, is they're being submissive. And it carries with us into this conversation when we're grown women, fearful to go into a meeting.
And grab life by the kahunas.
I
Or
think that's
the
great
ovaries,
for our
right?
listeners. Just encourage this new way of talking to each other, new conversations. We can do it with our young women, young girls coming up, whether we're mothers, whether we have young children around us. And I think we can do it with our friends too. It's never too late to start, even with friends our own age. Talking about value, casting it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's part of the whole thing. Well, will they like me because I've been good? So if they're behaving, tell them thank you for accommodating my need for you to sit still.
Yes.
Or whatever. But don't. That's not good. Yeah, and it's hard because everybody does it.
It's just like a tape on repeat that you repeat to your kids, and I catch it in myself, and I go, "Ooh, that was a little old-timey to say that to my child." Yeah,
Because that's what you heard.
that's what you
Not
heard.
that your
And as
parents were
hard as it
faulty,
is
but-
to have, nobody negotiates better. I've got a almost 5-year-old. Nobody negotiates better than a 5-year-old, and I think that tends to get kind of slapped out of us as we're children, right? I really want to make sure I'm not getting that out of, let's keep our kids good negotiators.
Keep negotiating. Make that a comfortable space to
Yes.
be negotiating. That's life. Everything is negotiating.
Absolutely. They're top notch. Thank you so much for coming. I want to just summarize. I want our listeners to leave with like the bullet points. I want them to leave today with, okay, this is what I need to do. So first was research.
Do your research, know your worth, set your scale, then be prepared for the process. Different places, corporate versus academia versus have different ways of going about it. Know what your alternates are in case money can't happen. So the vacations, the days off, the titles, make your ask. Be specific, then hold your breath. And first one to speak loses the contest. So just wait
Comfortable with the silence.
for the good answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I think that was awesome. I hope everybody is leaving this conversation with some really good tips. Maybe you don't need them, but maybe your friend does. So be sure to like and subscribe and share this conversation, because we all know a woman, or lots of women, who need to hear this conversation today and need to have this conversation. So thanks so much. Thanks for listening, and follow us, email us if you have any conversation topics. Anything to add?
Thanks for listening to Women Talk Finance.